Hello, everyone. Tonight, we re-diving into a chilling collection of 3 true hide-and-seek horror stories, tales that will make you think twice before turning off the lights or playing that innocent childhood game ever again. These stories aren't just urban legends. They're real events, shared by those who survived them, and they'll haunt your thoughts long after this video ends. The first story comes from a small town in Oregon back in 2008. A group of neighborhood kids gathered one summer evening to play hide-and-seek. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the empty streets. Among them was a 10-year-old girl named Lily, who was known for always picking the best hiding spots. That night, she decided to hide inside an old tool shed behind one of the abandoned houses at the edge of their cul-de-sac, a house everyone avoided because the owner had disappeared years ago. As the other kids started counting, Lily slipped inside the shed. The door creaked loudly, but no one heard over the laughter and counting. Inside, the air was thick and damp. She crouched behind a stack of wooden crates and waited, smiling to herself as she heard footsteps passing by outside. Then everything went silent. She assumed they had moved on, but then she heard whispering. It wasn't her friends. It was coming from inside the shed, soft and almost wet, like someone breathing too close to her ear. "You shouldn't be here," a raspy voice whispered. Lily froze. She could barely see anything in the darkness, but she felt something brush against her leg, cold and rough, like bone. She wanted to scream, but her throat locked up. She heard the sound of something dragging across the floor, coming closer. The whisper came again. "It's not your turn to hide." She finally bolted from the shed, screaming for her friends. They laughed at first, thinking she was just playing around. But when they went to check, the inside of the shed was ice cold, even though it was the middle of July. They also found something none of them could explain, a set of small, dirty handprints on the inside of the shed door, far too small to be Lily's, pressed into the wood from the inside. The next day, the shed was gone. The property owner said it burned down overnight, but no one had seen any fire. The second story happened to a college student named Ryan, who was visiting his cousins for the weekend. They were bored, so they decided to play hide-and-seek in their large 2-story farmhouse late at night. The house had dozens of rooms, and with the lights off, it became a maze of shadows. Ryan hid in a narrow space behind an old wardrobe in the upstairs hallway. He slid into the gap, careful not to make a sound, and listened to the faint echoes of footsteps below. Minutes passed. Then everything went silent. He figured his cousins gave up, so he stayed still, waiting for them to call out. But instead, he heard slow, dragging footsteps coming up the stairs. They were heavy, too heavy for his cousins, who were both small. He could hear each step creak loudly as it came closer. Then someone whispered, "I found you," from the other side of the wardrobe. Ryan almost laughed. But then he realized the whisper wasn't his cousin's voice. It was deeper, older. The wardrobe started to shake slightly, as if someone was pressing against it from the other side. Ryan didn't move. The footsteps moved past his hiding spot, then stopped right outside his door. The handle turned, slowly. He held his breath, praying it wouldn't open. After a long pause, the door creaked open. He saw nothing through the small gap between the wardrobe and the wall, just darkness. Then, out of nowhere, a pale, thin hand slipped into the gap, reaching toward him. Ryan burst out screaming and shoved the wardrobe over, running downstairs. His cousins were in the kitchen looking terrified. They said they had been there the whole time, hiding downstairs because they heard someone walking upstairs when no one was supposed to be there. When they went up together, the wardrobe was back upright, the door wide open. And on the floor were deep scratches, 5 long lines gouged into the wood, as if something had clawed its way out. The third story happened to a babysitter named Emily in 2015. She was watching 2 kids, Max and Sophie, while their parents were away for the weekend. Around 8 p.m., the kids begged to play hide and seek before bed. Emily agreed, even though the house was old and creaked with every step. She closed her eyes and began counting as they ran off giggling. 1, 2, 3, she said, pretending to peek through her fingers. When she reached 20, she began searching. The first floor was empty. No kids under the sofa or behind the curtains. Then she went upstairs. The hallway was dark except for a nightlight glowing faintly at the end. "I'm coming for you," she teased. Then she heard soft breathing from inside the closet in the guest room. Smiling, she crept over and flung the door open. The closet was empty, just coats and shadows. Then she heard Sophie giggle. From behind her, she turned, but no one was there. "Okay, come out now, you two," she said, pretending not to be spooked. Suddenly, a voice whispered from the closet, this time behind the coats. "You found me." Emily froze. It was a man's voice. She yanked the coats aside, and for a split second she saw something crouched in the farthest corner, tall, with its knees bent unnaturally close to its chest. She screamed and slammed the door shut, grabbing her phone and calling the police. When officers arrived, they found the kids safe, hiding together in the basement the entire time. But the guest room closet door was wide open again. And inside, there was a hole in the drywall big enough for someone to crawl through. Behind it, police discovered a narrow crawl space that ran the entire length of the house. Inside were old blankets, empty food cans, and a filthy mattress. Someone had been living inside that wall for months without anyone knowing. The kids' parents moved out the next week, and the house was torn down a year later. These stories remind us that sometimes hide and seek isn't just a game. Sometimes you were not hiding from your friends. You were hiding with something else that is already there. So next time you feel like playing in the dark, remember, there might be someone waiting who never stopped playing. Thank you for watching Shdows Secrit. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying stories from the shadows.